Myles Garrett moves into second all-time in tackles for loss with 31. Next up is J.J. Watt, who has 39. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL Top 10s for Monday. Good morning. Hope you enjoyed the games on Sunday. I did, especially as a Jaguar fan. They crushed the Indianapolis Colts and are now in first place all by themselves. So that was a big win. I hope your team won, whoever that was, unless it was Indianapolis Colts. But there were some big games that really have changed the playoff picture, the seedings in the playoffs, and just the standings overall. Who's in first place now? So we'll look at that later in the week. But today we're going to go through about half the games on Sunday, and then tomorrow we'll finish off the games, including the Monday night game. So with all that, let's get a start on this so we can get it done in around 30 minutes. We're going to start with the Seattle Seahawks visiting the Atlanta Falcons, and really, actually, what was a close game at halftime. It was only 6-6. No one had even scored a touchdown. But then Seattle broke out in this third and fourth quarter. In the second half, they just ran away with it from Seattle and ended up winning 37-9. Just dominated after that for the Atlanta Falcons. And Kirk Cousins, I tell you, Atlanta's hurting. They didn't have Drake London again. And, without him, you just don't have to worry too much about any of the other wide receivers. And in fact, you've got, tight end Kyle Pitts did all right, but Kirk Cousins, 15 for 30, so only 50% there, 162 yards, so not many yards, and 2 interceptions. Now, Bijan Robinson had a good game, no touchdowns though, 20 carries for 86 yards. They did run the ball 31 times for 120 yards, so not quite 4 yards a carry, just about though. But Bijan Robinson didn't have as big a game as he's had. 86 yards rushing, and then another 8 yards, so he had 94 yards. Kyle Pitts had a good game, 6 catches for 90 yards, but again, no touchdowns in this game for the Falcons. So hurt them there. Now for Seattle, Sam Darnold, 20 for 30. So had 5 more completions on the same amount of attempts as Kirk Cousins, and had, 80 plus yards more, 249 yards for Sam Darnold in passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception. In the running game, boy, this is just a mess. Kenneth Walker should be the guy, but he went 10 for 29 yards. Charbonnet, the backup, had 7 carries for 46 yards. And then Felix Jones had 4 carries for 32 yards. But this is by the time of the fourth quarter, this game had kind of gotten to be a blowout. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba, like I said, last week he had his worst game. Just terrible. 2 catches for like 23 yards. Well, this game he was back. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 7 catches, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. So really had a big game. 10 targets. He was targeted 10 times, double that of anybody else, which was Rashid Shaheed, who had 4 catches for 67 yards. And Cooper Kupp, only 2 catches, but 1 was a touchdown. So spread the ball a little bit among everybody else after Jackson. And but really, with 20 completions, Jackson Smith had 7 of them. So very good percentage, like 35% of the passes were heading toward him. Now that was it, really. As far as rushing, like I said, nothing going on there for them. Now in this game, Jackson Smith-Njigba did need 1 catch for this season to move up from 10th. He was tied for actually 9th. He got 7. So with 7 catches, he jumps all the way to 6th place. Just 1 behind DK Metcalf, who in 2022 had 90. Jackson Smith-Njigba now has 89 receptions this season. So he is on his way. He only needs 11. He's set the record last year, tied the record with Tyler Lockett at 100 receptions. He needs 11 receptions in the next 4 games. I think that's very possible. And probably he does it in 2 games. So there's no telling how badly he breaks this record. He's going to crush it at some point, barring injury, obviously. And I hate even saying that because that's just an obvious. But really having a great season. Now that Metcalf and Lockett are gone, it's been all Smith-Njigba. Also in this game, Smith-Njigba needed 1 touchdown receiving to move up into the top 10 in career-wise in receiving touchdowns. Well, he got 2. So he jumped right over the top of Bobby Ingram, who played from 2001 to 2008. He had 18. So now Jackson Smith-Njigba has 19 receiving touchdowns to put him into 10th. All time for the Seattle Seahawks. Next up is Sam McCullum, who played in the late 70s, early 80s. He had 21. So he needs a couple more to catch him. That's as far as he's going to get this year because Brian Blades, who played in the late 80s and the 90s, had 34. So that's a big jump. It's going to take him into next year before he catch the next few guys on this list. Now, Steve Largent's a long way away. Steve Largent had 100 receiving touchdowns, exactly 100, when he played in the 70s and 80s. He was a great receiver. Never very fast, but always seemed to be open and if he could touch it, he probably caught it. All right, now, for the Falcons, Kirk Cousins needed 84 yards to move into the top 10 all time for the Atlanta Falcons in passing yards. And who would have thought this? I mean, you would have thought it after last year when Atlanta paid him all the money, but then they benched him, and then they had Penix, who's out. So that gave Kirk Cousins a chance to move up this passing yards list, but he moves into 10th place all time with 4,353 yards after he threw for 162. So jumps over David Archer, who played in the 80s. Next up for him, which he won't see ever, because I don't even know if he'll be on the team next year. And obviously Penix will be back, but Randy Johnson's in 9th with over 5,500 yards. So he's not going to get that. And he'd need to throw 4 300-yard games this year, the rest of this year, and that's not happening. So he'll get on the top 10 until Penix comes along, if it's Penix, and knocks him off of that list. Now, also in this game, Bijan Robinson needed 55 yards to move up into 8th place. He would pass Dave Hampton, who played in the 70s in rushing yards. Well, Bijan Robinson got 86 yards, so he's now got 3,513 rushing yards to put him into 8th place all time over Dave Hampton, who had just under 3,500 yards. So next up for Bijan Robinson is the quarterback Michael Vick, who played from 2001 to 2006. He's got over 3,800, so he needs 300-plus yards, Bijan does, to pass Michael Vick, and he could do that this year. He's had some big games. He's still got 4 to go, so that's very possible for him. And Tyler Algier, he stayed in 10th. He had 34 yards, and he stays in 10th. So the Atlanta Falcons have 2 current players in rushing yards on their all-time top 10. And it just shows you, boy, their season just turned to worms when Penix went out and London hasn't been able to play. They were trying to hang in there, and they just have lost games consistently. All right, next game up is the Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Buffalo Bills. And boy, Cincinnati needed to win this game to have any chance to be in the playoffs. And it looked like they were going to do it. They were winning 21-11 at halftime. And they actually pulled ahead 28-18. They were up by 10, but then the Buffalo Bills came storming back in the fourth quarter on 2 interceptions. One, they ran in for a touchdown, turned right around and intercepted Burrow again. And they ended up winning the game. Buffalo did 39-34 over the Cincinnati Bengals, pretty much probably absolutely shutting the door on the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now 4-9. They really needed a win, and obviously Buffalo did as well to stay within any kind of touch of New England and to stay in the playoff rate hunt. And they're firmly in there now with this win. In the game, Josh Allen had a massive game, 22 completions on 28 attempts for 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, sacked 3 times. James Cook had a pretty good game, though he did have a fumble. But he had 18 carries for 80 yards and 2 catches for 31 yards. Yeah, once he almost fumbled it out of the end zone on one run, but they said he was out of bounds. And then on another one where he's running in right at the end zone, he fumbled it into the end zone where Cincinnati was able to fall on it for a touchback. But other than that, he had a pretty good game. He had 111 total yards in this game. Now, Dawson Knox and 2 tight ends were big in this game. Between them, 10 catches for 134 yards and a touchdown. So it was the tight ends all the way in this game. Dawson Knox had 6 catches for 93 yards, and Dalton Kincaid had 4 catches for 41 and a touchdown. They were targeted between the two of them 12 times. No one else was targeted more than 3. Khalil Shakir had only 2 catches, 16 yards, but 1 was a touchdown. And Keon Coleman, who was supposed to have a breakout year, has just been almost non-existent, being benched, healthy scratches for probably some disciplinary action. Sorry about that. But he had 2 catches, 16 yards. Buffalo pulls this game out. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow was looking good, really looking good. 25 for 36, 284 yards, 4 touchdowns. At one point there, until late in the fourth quarter, he had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Then he throws back-to-back interceptions, so he ended up with 2 interceptions. Their rushing game was non-existent for Cincinnati. T. Higgins, 6 catches, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Mike Gesicki, 6 catches, 86 yards, and 1 touchdown. So they're the 2 big ones. And in fact, T. Higgins was targeted 11 times to Chase being targeted 8 times. Chase only had 5 catches for 44 yards. So not really a good game for him. Overall, T. Higgins had the big game. Now, in this game, T. Higgins did need a receiving touchdown, and like I said, he got 2. So with those 2, he was in a tie with Eddie Brown, who played in the 80s and early 90s for 6th place all time. So now T. Higgins, with 43 receiving touchdowns, is now in 6th place all by himself. And next up for him, which he won't catch, but next up for him is Jamar Chase, who has 51. So you've got here 2 Cincinnati Bengals, middle of the top 10 all time for the Bengals in receiving touchdowns. I mean, Jamar Chase is 5th, and now T. Higgins is 6th. So good for them. 2 really good receivers there. And just rough year for them in the fact that Burrow was out. And also, in this game, in the second half, the Cincinnati Bengals did not know how to cover Josh Allen. I mean, not only did he have 251 yards passing, he had 78 yards on 9 carries rushing for 1 touchdown as well. I mean, he just took off anytime he wanted, and they had no idea where he was. They continually rushed him and left him lanes all over for him. I mean, their offense is the worst, and you just could watch it on display. The fact that they held Buffalo to only 11 points in the first half was amazing. But after that, it just turned to worms. Their defense showed that they really didn't have a defense in the second half. Now, for Buffalo in this game, James Cook, he needed 39 rushing yards to move up into the top 10. He started this game in 15th place, but they were so packed up that he really only needed 39 yards to move into 10th. Well, he got 80, and 80 was good enough to put him all the way up into 9th place. So he's in 9th now, and he's so close to moving even much farther up this list. What's amazing about this list of top 10 Buffalo Bills in rushing yards is O.J. Simpson has the top 3 spots. And then it's either Travis Henry or Thurman Thomas was everybody else on the list, except in 10th was LaShawn McCoy. Well, now he's gone because James Cook moves into this top 10 list. But this was heavy with O.J. Simpson and Thurman Thomas, and then Travis Henry. 3, O.J. Simpson, 4, Thurman Thomas, and 2, Travis Henry. And now you've got James Cook moving in ahead of LaShawn McCoy. So he made a big jump, and really next week he only needs 7 yards to move into 8th and only needs 48 yards to move into 7th. I mean, he could easily move even into 6th. He needs 99 to catch Thurman Thomas for 6th, though. He has a chance to move all the way up this list. He won't catch O.J. Simpson's record of 2,003 yards, which he set in 1973. But other than that, he could move it up into maybe even as far as number 3. Probably very likely, in fact. A good game for him there. Now, rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen had 11 going into this game. He needed 1 to move into the top 10, and he got it. So now he ties himself for 10th place. Last year, he had 12 touchdowns rushing. So now he has 12 again this year. But, of course, still 4 more games to go. So he has a really good chance to move ahead of that. Last year, the Buffalo Bills, as far as rushing touchdowns, James Cook had 16, and Josh Allen had 12 for total 28 rushing touchdowns last year. Now, this year, James Cook doesn't have as many, but Josh Allen's right there with 12. Probably didn't like the fact, Josh Allen, that is, that James Cook had more rushing touchdowns, so he's going to keep it himself this year. Probably not true. Just my feelings about the Buffalo Bills getting out there a little bit. All right. So Josh Allen, again, had a great game and kind of puts himself into, I really hadn't considered him for MVP, but he's putting himself out there for the MVP. And if they'd have lost this game, he would, no way. But by pulling this game out, coming back in the second half and making a big game of it, he's a contender with 4 games to go. He's definitely a contender. Next game up, Tennessee Titans versus the Cleveland Browns, 2 teams with really horrible records. Believe it or not, Tennessee Titans win this game in Cleveland 31-29. First of all, not only did Tennessee win, but they scored 31 points against the Cleveland Browns. I would have not guessed that. This was a game that was considered a very low-scoring game, and yet they pull out 31-29, Tennessee winning it. Now, in this game, Dear Sanders had a pretty decent game. 23 completions on 42 attempts, so a little over 50%, 364 yards passing. That's really good. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, only sacked twice. He also ran the ball 3 times for 29 yards and another touchdown. So he had a huge game. Their running game was non-existent. I mean, Quinshon Judkins, 14 carries, 26 yards. So they, as a team, 20 carries, 61 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. Really, really not good at all against Tennessee. Now, in the receiving department, their tight end, Harold Fannin, it was all him pretty much. 8 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. He had 11 targets. No one else had more than 6, which was a running back. Now, Jerry Jeudy did have 3 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. So he had a good game on only 3 receptions. Not bad there. Otherwise, the ball was spread out quite a bit for Cleveland. Now, taking a look at Myles Garrett, who's been racking up the sacks and the tackles for loss. Well, he had another sack and 3 tackles for loss. So he's going to be impressive in that category again when we look at that for the season this year. But we'll look at it also in just a second. Now for Tennessee, Cam Ward, 14 for 28, only 50%, only 117 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, this game was close at halftime. Cleveland was winning at 17-14. Tennessee pulls in the lead in the third quarter and then was able to hold on in a high-scoring fourth quarter with another 10 points in the fourth quarter, but to outpace Cleveland Browns. Now, rushing for Tennessee, though, Tony Pollard had a big game, showed up. He hadn't had a game like this in a while. 25 carries, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is against the Cleveland Browns defense. I don't know if anybody's had that many yards. They pretty much have been shutting most people down, but 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had a 65-yard rushing play. Man, he was impressive. Broke away from some people and really had a good run. So in the receiving game, nobody had more than 28 yards. That was TJ Spears, had 2 catches for 28 yards. That's what happens, I guess, when you only have 117 yards passing. Shamir DK, that is, had 8 targets, 5 catches, 24 yards. 1 was a touchdown, though. So Tennessee pulls this game out. Now they're 2-11, and they lost their position as the number 1 team in the NFL draft at this point. I think the Giants now took that spot. So in this game, Tennessee Titans, Jeffrey Simmons needed 1 tackle for loss to move up, and he had 2. So he now was in a tie with Albert Haynesworth for 4th place. In fact, not only does he pass Albert Haynesworth, who played in the 2000s. Boy, basically him and Keith Bullock played in the 2000s, the early 2000s. But Keith Bullock had 61. So now Jeffrey Simmons with 2 now is tied with Keith Bullock for 3rd place all time with 61. Next up for him, probably be tough to catch, is Harold Landry, who was with a team last year, ended his career with them last year, who has 70. And now Jeffrey Simmons has 61. Now in this game, kind of this is a stat like Davante Adams had a while back when he had a touchdown, but David Njoku got hurt, but he did have 1 catch for 1 yard, and it was a touchdown. He needed 1 touchdown reception in his career to move ahead of Mac Speedle, who played in the 40s and 50s. They were tied for 6th spot with 33. So David Njoku now has 34 to move into 6th place all by himself. After that, next up for him in 5th is the great Ozzie Newsome, who had 47, so he won't catch him. But 1 catch, and Davante Adams did the same thing earlier this season for the Rams. Now, like I said, Myles Garrett had 3 tackles for loss. Came into the game with 28, which was tied for 5th. With 31, he jumps over J.J. Watt, who all the way Myles Garrett moves into 2nd all-time in tackles for loss with 31. Next up is J.J. Watt, who has 39. That is the number 1 spot in tackles for loss all time. He has a chance. I didn't think anybody could catch J.J. Watt's 39. But 31, he needs 8 with 4 games to go. That's 2 a game. And he's averaging that. So he definitely has a chance. Amazing season for Myles Garrett. J.J. Watt had the top 3 spots, but Myles Garrett now is in 2nd with 31 tackles for loss. Quite a great season for him this year as far as Defensive Player of the Year. All right, next game is the Washington Commanders versus the Minnesota Vikings. I believe last week, if I'm correct, Minnesota got waxed by Seattle, didn't score a point. This week, Minnesota wins the game 31-0, just took it out on the Commanders. It was a terrible game for the Commanders, and Minnesota's now 5-8. Commanders, their season went tanked. Really makes it good for the Eagles as far as holding on to their spot. Aiden Daniels in this game, 9 completions on 20 attempts for 78 yards and an interception. That is horrible. Marcus Mariota came in, went 2 for 4, 30 yards, and another interception. As a team, the Commanders passed for 99 yards. after you take out the sack yards. As far as rushing goes, Chris Rodriguez, 10 carries, 52 yards. And as a team, they had 23 carries for 107 yards, which isn't bad, actually, over 4 yards a carry. But that's it. This was a horrible game for this team. And if you, I think I might have picked up Jaden Daniels and horrendous. But for Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy, not much better, but, better than their other guy. And considering the circumstances, probably he could have done a lot better. He went 16 completions on 23 attempts for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sacked 4 times, though. But being that at halftime, Minnesota was up 14-0, and after the third quarter, they were up 24-0. There was no point in McCarthy having to throw it much, so that probably explains some of the low numbers there. Aaron Jones, 14 carries for 76 yards. Jordan Mason, 11 carries for 52 and a touchdown. As a team, 34 carries, 162 yards and a touchdown. So obviously they went to the run game, and, why not? Now in this game, boy, if you had Justin Jefferson, 2 catches, 11 yards. Oof, that's rough. Even Jordan Addison, 4 catches, 62 yards. The player no one had, if you had fantasy, Josh Oliver, 2 catches, 24 yards, and 2 touchdowns. No one had him on their team, unless you're in some kind of massive team where you have 16 players on your team or something, 16 teams in your league or however, but no one's playing Josh Oliver normally. TJ Hawkinson had 2 catches, 12 yards, and a touchdown. So those are your touchdowns, not Addison, not Jefferson. This has been a horrible year for Jefferson. Not what you would have expected. I mean, I think at the beginning of the season, I said Justin Jefferson is one of those players that's quarterback proof. Well, not so. Definitely not so. Now, for Washington, nothing really, except that Von Miller, who's been around since 2011, needed 1 tackle for loss. He got it. Now he's tied with Levante David, who's also active, who's been around since 2012, and Julius Pepper. They're all 3 tied with 175 tackles for loss, which is good enough for 5th all-time in the NFL. Next up is Aaron Donald, who retired a couple years ago. He had 176 tackles for loss. So 1 more for Levante David or Von Miller, and they tie Aaron Donald. Calais Campbell right now is tied for 2nd with J.J. Watt with 195. Now, for the Minnesota Vikings, they didn't have much either going on except for Harrison Smith. It's been so impressive. He needed an interception. He was in a tie for 4th place all-time for the Minnesota Vikings with 37 interceptions. He got 1, so he now has 38 to move into 4th all-time by himself. Next up is Ed Schrockman, who played in the 60s and early 70s, who has 40. So he only needs 2 more. He might get them. He's been getting some interceptions this year. And that would put him into 3rd. All-time for the Minnesota Vikings is Paul Krause, who has 53 for the Minnesota Vikings. Paul Krause also holds the NFL record, which no one will break, of 81 total interceptions in his career. No one's ever going to break that record. All right. Next game up, Miami Dolphins versus the New York Jets. They went to New York and they clobbered the New York Jets. Good game for Miami. They're trying to mount a comeback. They've had several wins here lately. They're now 6-7. They're not completely out of the playoffs. I mean, they have a slim chance, but they have been consistently winning, and this was a good game. I mean, they had this game wrapped up at halftime. It was 24-7, and then they kind of coasted in after that. So that's why Tua Tagovailoa only was 13 for 21, 127 yards, and a touchdown. Really didn't need to throw the ball much. Also for Miami, Devon Achane had 7 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown, and then was out of the game. got injured. They said he could have come back, but why bother when, they had such a big lead already? So Jalen Wright came in, 24 carries, 107 yards and a touchdown. So a little over 4 yards there. As a team, Miami, 41 carries, 239 yards and 3 touchdowns. They just crushed it in the running game. That's over 5 yards, 6 yards a carry. I mean, very good game for them there. Now for the New York Jets, they're 3-10. They need a quarterback. Tyrod Taylor got hurt, 1 for 4 yards, an interception. Brady Cook came in, 14 completions on 30 attempts, so under 50%, 163 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, sacked 6 times. Just not a good game. Breece Hall, 14 carries, 43 yards, so nothing there either. What can they do? I mean, when you look at this team, no quarterback. You got Breece Hall, he's good. What do you got for receivers? Nobody. I don't see anybody on this team. Mason Taylor, John Mechie, Adonai Mitchell's okay, but wow, there's nobody. I mean, their offense is pathetic, and somehow they've still managed to win 3 games. All right, sorry about that, but that's just a rough game for them. Now, in this game, Achane needed 52 yards. Well, he got 92, so he was in 12th spot all time in Miami Dolphins rushing yards. He was in 12th. Well, with 92, that jumped him all the way, unbelievably, all the way into 6th spot. He passed Ricky Williams, Larry Zonka, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lamar Miller, and Reggie Bush. So Reggie Bush is now no longer in the top 10, and Devon Achane jumps from 12th to 6th, and he's going to go higher if he's okay. He's definitely going to go higher than that. Everybody's within his reach except Ricky Williams, who in 2002 had 1,853 yards. He won't get him, but he could get every other spot and move all the way up to 2nd. He only needs 260 yards to do it in 4 games. So very possible for him to do that. Also in this game, he needed, that was not on the season level, as a career number, he needed 1 touchdown in the all-touchdown category to move into a tie for 8th place, which he did get. So he's now tied for 8th with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not the basketball player, all time in Miami Dolphins history with all touchdowns of 34 touchdowns. So tied for 8th there, needs 4 more to catch Ronnie Brown, who has 38. So Devon Achane had a really, actually, if he'd have played a whole game and had those numbers, it's not bad. So he really had a decent game. Let's see. He had 1 catch as well for 13 yards. So he had over 105 yards of offense, and he didn't even play past the first half. So really, he's really a great player for their team. All right. We're going to call it a wrap right there with that game. Good game there. You know what? Let's just throw in one more game because there's not much to say in this game. New Orleans Saints 24-20 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a shock. No one, I actually thought the New Orleans Saints defense would do all right, but did not expect a win out of them. The Saints win this game to go 3-10, and Tampa Bay now, 7-6. Their offense is just falling apart. Baker Mayfield was 14 for 30 for 122 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was not sacked, 14 for 30. Wow, less than 50%. Running game, nothing there. Bucky Irving, 15 carries, 55 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. Rashad White, 11 carries for 53. So they ran the ball a lot, 39 times for 179 yards and a touchdown. Baker Mayfield even had 6 carries for 42 yards. But they could not win this game. Now, they do get Evans back next week, which might help. Emeka Egbuka, 2 receptions, 9 targets, dropped a couple of balls. That was bad. I think Tampa Bay should have won the game. Emeka Buka just dropped one in the end zone. Not a good game at all. Now, the only stat in this game, I should tell you real quick, for the Saints, Tyler Schaff had a decent game, 13 completions, 20 attempts for 144 yards, had one interception, sacked 3 times. Evan Neal had a good game as far as the running back goes, 19 carries, 70 yards, 1 touchdown, so good game for him. In the receiving department, when you only throw for 144 yards, nobody had any more than 40 yards. No one had more than 4 catches. Juwan Johnson, 4 for 38. Devon Vele had 3 for 40. That's it. No one was targeted more than 5 times. No one had more than 4 catches in this game. Now, in this game, Vita Vea for Tampa Bay, he needed half a sack to catch Chidi Ahanatu, who played from 1993 to 2004, for 8th place. Well, he had a whole sack, Vita Vea did, so he moves into 8th place all time with 35 sacks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next up for him is David Logan, who played in the 80s. He had 38.5. All right, that is a wrap there. We'll call it quits right there with that game. That game wasn't much of a game. Tomorrow, we'll pick it up with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we'll finish off the rest of the games. And plus the Monday night game. Wow, that's going to be a big game there. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Los Angeles Chargers. The Eagles, with a win, they'll be back in a position where they pretty much can wrap up their division, with Dallas losing and their game. It really gives the Eagles all the room they need. I mean, they've got a 2-game lead on Dallas just about, and with a win, it'll be 2.5, and it pretty much wraps it up for them. They'd have to lose out almost for Dallas to come back and win it. And that's the only way Dallas, I think, is getting in, is by winning the division. And so Philadelphia has it wrapped up pretty much. Now, for the Chargers, this game is huge. They want to stay close within 2 games of the Denver Broncos. They need to win it. But also, they lose this game, they drop into a tie with Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, and they even give the opportunity for the Kansas City Chiefs to stay in it, though they're only 6-7. But the Chargers win. They move ahead of the Texans and the Colts, and they put Kansas City Chiefs 3 games back of them and 5 games back of Denver. Kansas City's out of it. There's 4 games to go. They cannot win the division. The best they're going to go is 10-7, and the Denver Broncos are 11-2. So the Kansas City Chiefs are not winning their division, and very likely are not going to make the playoffs. But there's a chance, because Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts have very difficult. Their next 4 games are pretty rough for both of those teams. And the Colts lost their quarterback. Man, bad injury for him. Not even touched. He was just backing up to throw a pass, twisted his ankle, and tore his Achilles. He's out. Just a freakish kind of thing. And really, that's crippling for the Colts. But so, just saying, for the Chargers, this game is huge, really much more for them than it is for the Eagles. But they have to win it. So we'll see what happens. Going into the game, both teams actually are 8-4, so this is a good game. See how good those 8-4 records really are. All right, that's a wrap. So until tomorrow, that's it for NFL Today Top 10s for Monday. I'm out.